This video is brought to you by Roll for Combat and the RPG Superstar Contest. Create up to 3 of your own Pathfinder 2nd Edition monsters for a chance at winning several prizes, including the publication of your creations in an upcoming Battlezoo bestiary. Enter now at rpgsuperstar.com. Hey everybody, Dave here with another Pathfinder rule reminder for you, and today's topic is group skill checks. So in other words, what happens when the group as a whole wants to work together to achieve a skill-based challenge as opposed to individuals making their own individual checks. And in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, there is no hard rule that's labeled as group check. That is something that you find in a lot of other D20 based fantasy role-playing systems, but not in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Instead, there are a number of different rules that handle maybe one different aspect of a traditional group check, and I'm going to go over several of those with you today, and hopefully the GMs out there will be able to apply whichever of these best suit whatever their need is in their game. So first of all, there is the aid basic action. Aiding is just a way for you to give a little assistance to your friend, your fellow teammate, who is attempting a skill check. And the way it works mechanically is you spend one action on your turn, and you use that action to prepare to help, and then on your friend's turn, you spend your reaction to hopefully assist them. And when you do so, you make a skill check of your own. The DC is typically 20, and on a success, you grant a bonus to your ally's check. On a critical success, you grant a higher bonus, and on a critical failure, you impose a penalty to that ally's check. So there could be situations in your game where your players are working together and assisting one another, and you can use this aid basic action mechanic. But an important thing to remember about using aid is aid provides circumstance bonuses and circumstance penalties, which means even if all 5 players in your team work together using aid, maybe you have one person making the skill check and you've got the 4 other players all aiding, because it applies a typed bonuses and a typed penalty on a critical failure, you only apply the single greatest bonus and the single greatest penalty to that check. Another option within the rules is to follow the expert. This is an exploration activity. So the way this works is you have one player who is designated as the leader for the check, and as the name implies, that leader must have at least expert proficiency in the skill that they are leading. But assuming they do, then everybody else on the team can receive benefits based on that leadership that's being provided. So first things first, if any of the other players that's not the leader is untrained in the skill that's being used, then they get to add their level as a bonus to their skill check, even though they are untrained proficiency. And in addition to that, everybody who participates is going to get another bonus based on the proficiency level of the person who's leading. So if that person is an expert, they're going to get +2 to their skill checks. If that leader is master proficiency, it's going to be +3, and if that leader is legendary proficiency, is going to be +4. So this could be a situation where maybe everybody is climbing up a wall. Okay, so the leader is going first, and because that leader is going first, that leader is able to call back and say, here's a good place to put your feet, here's a good handhold, don't go up that side, come up this side. And because of that guidance, the people following that leader are going to get a bonus to their checks. Another option that might be a possibility for players working in concert to achieve a goal is the victory point subsystem. Now, this is covered in the Game Mastery Guide, and it's several pages long, so I'm definitely not going to go through it in detail, but the idea is, as a GM, you assign a point total to a task. So you might say this particular task is going to be completed when the players achieve 6 points. And then you assign DCs to skill checks, and whenever a player succeeds on that skill check, they get 1 point towards the total. If they critically succeed, they get 2 points. If they fail, they don't make any progress, but there's also no downside to it. And if they critically fail, then they goofed up pretty bad, and the group loses 1 point from their total. And when the group as a whole achieves the number of points needed, then they have achieved that task. I believe in the Game Mastery Guide, the scenario that they use to serve as an example is there's some sort of a social activity. Maybe there's a big dinner, a feast, a ball, something like that, and the players are all trying to get some information. So they all spread out about the room and start engaging different people in the room in conversation. Now they're operating separately, so they're making separate skill checks, but they're all trying to get the same piece of information, and that piece of information will be revealed when the group as a whole has achieved enough victory points for that challenge. And the last way to possibly manage group checks in your game is something from Pathfinder Society. I will say up front that I don't have much of really any experience with Pathfinder Society, but I've been told that a common mechanic in a number of their scenarios is performing group checks where everybody in the group, they roll individually, but if half the players succeed on that check, then the group as a whole succeeds. And if half the players do not succeed on that check, then the group as a whole fails, which sounds like it might be a very quick way to resolve a lot of challenges that do come up in the traditional group skill check mindset. So there's a number of different options, and really it may come down to the scenario to figure out which one you might want to choose. So let's think of a scenario that might apply to a number of these. Say you have players and they come to a body of water. It's a very narrow but very quickly moving, and they're going to have to make athletic checks to try to cross through this quickly moving body of water before they get knocked down or prevented from getting to the other side of this water. So there's a couple of different ways to approach this. The first would be maybe the first player rolls their skill check, they succeed, they start moving across the water, and then they say, I'm going to turn around and offer my hand to the next person in line. That might be an aid basic action situation. They rolled their individual check, they progressed, they're now spending their next action and their reaction to hold out their hand to the next player, and in doing so, the next player will grab that hand and receive a +2 bonus to their check. That might be a way to approach it from an aid basic action perspective. Another would be following the expert. You could have your most talented and highest proficiency player go first, and while they're going across this water, they're saying it's a little more shallow here, and so start here, and then we come up. There's a little bit of rock sticking out of the water halfway. Make sure you come up from it at this angle and get behind it. That's going to give you some purchase, and so in them doing that, that's going to apply a bonus to the rolls of everybody following them and following their guidance. That would be follow the expert. Then, of course, there is the Pathfinder Society scenario. Maybe the players say, look, we've got some strong people in this group, and we also have that wizard who is, has an 8 strength score, is untrained in athletics, and there's no way they're getting across this. So maybe they say, let's take a piece of rope, and we're going to tie that rope around each person, and we're going to do this together as a team. That would be that Pathfinder scenario example of everybody rolls their checks, and if at least half the people succeed, then you get a successful result, and if at least half the people do not succeed, then you don't. So that is a scenario where everybody is roped together. If 3 players succeed on their check and the wizard fails on his check, then no worries. They've succeeded, they're going to pull that wizard along. But it's also a situation where you've got that barbarian up front who may have critically succeeded their check, If the rest of the group failed, then that barbarian is not going to make any progress across the water because they can't drag 3 or 4 other people with them through the water. So in that perspective of the group check, that truly is a we all succeed or we all fail situation. So there you go. There is no official group check as such in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but there are a couple of ways within the rules to tackle scenarios where your players might be working together on a common goal. As always, make sure you leave your questions about this and any suggestions you have for future rule reminders in the comments of this video. I will leave in the description of this video links to any other of my videos that might be related to this topic. And as always, I want to say thank you to everybody out there who supports me, whether that's through clicking the like button on this video, subscribing to my channel, subscribing to the Patreon, sharing these videos, sharing your suggestions for future rule reminders. I appreciate everything the community does to support me. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.